Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and a link in the info box below the video once it is rendered. If you would like to join the panel, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next show. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we do have a few guests with us already, so we've got Adam, Anthony Riley and Arwin. Don't care who says hello first, but hello gentlemen, good to have you all here.
Hello.
Hello, Arwin.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think that was Adam. Hello,
good
Adam.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
And good morning, Anthony. Very good to have you all.
I think Adam's here as well, isn't he?
I'm here, guys. Yeah, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
I'm loud always.
We've been talking.
It's been an interesting.
You go ahead.
It's been an interesting last 24 hours. In the next 10 minutes or so, I want to show some facts and figures that will kind of, well, it'll kind of hurt some of the more avid ball earthers. I'm going to wait until the numbers get a little bit higher because I don't want it to be lost at the beginning of the show by only having a few people. I want people to see this. So within 5 minutes, I'll be making a quick presentation showing the rumpus, showing his bottom, Geostrieber showing his bottom. And basically, these are the guys that are trying to tell us what the Earth science is, and it's obviously wrong from their perspective. And I just want to cite some stuff back that is there to basically to injure and maim them. So when we get up to normal viewing figures, somewhere up to like 70 plus, in the next, hopefully it'll be the next 10 minutes, we'll be able to do that. And I'm looking forward to that. So stay tuned and make sure that you're paying attention because it's about to get good.
Cool. I don't mind doing it at the beginning. I mean, it makes no odds in terms of live viewing because we're on the backup channel anyway for the live broadcast. So chances are most people will watch it on the re-up. So I would just do it now if you want me to share you. But if you want to wait, I don't mind either way.
Let's give it a few more minutes. So yeah, we'll give it a few more minutes. So in the meantime, I'll just do a bit of fill. I'll just ask you like usual kind of questions. Arwin, have you found any curvature yet?
Me? Well, only on women, really.
Only on what?
Only on women.
Yeah. Adam, have you found any curvature?
I've been looking, guys, but unfortunately to no avail as we speak.
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to Sliced Barcane actually.
Hi, Jim Sanders. How you doing? Good to have you here. Can you say a quick hello? I know he's dropped. Maybe we'll lose Arwin.
Me?
No, we had somebody join and then drop, which normally means they've just joined to snipe people.
Is Arwin still there?
Yeah, he's still with us.
Good. Oh, Arwin's been sniped. I'll bring him back in on the call. I thought Arwin had the... It's all right. I'll bring him back in. I'm just remembering how to do this.
The trouble is, if people immediately snipe someone like Arwin out of the Hangout, it just means that ultimately it'll end up being... It'll descend into us just talking on Skype, and then we'll get accused of having a circle jerk. It's like, we've had an open door, the show's been running for 4 minutes, and someone's joined just to snipe Arwin, which means that as more and more people join, and the sniping continues, I'll just think, okay, right, well that's the end of the Hangout section, the bit that's open to the public. So you snipers, all you're doing is shutting it down for other people, because the show will continue daily, apart from when it's not, you know, if I'm in St. Bees. But ultimately, the show will continue. It doesn't matter if you join and snipe people, it just means that the people who do want to join don't get to. But there we go. That's not really my concern. As I say, the show will continue daily anyway.
Maybe we should bring trusted friends in on Skype from day one, from the beginning, minute one, and just leave the hangout for the ballers that want to disrupt. And if they want to disrupt it that much, not let any of the ballers in. Maybe we should just leave them to it, and we can just have our own circle jerk that they don't like, and then blame them when we basically remind them that it's their room to play with. If they want to destroy it, then that's up to them. Anyway, I just want to give a shout out to Sly Sparkane. Right at the very, very end of the show yesterday, we were talking about periscopes. Alex was talking about how some things that are in the distance are mirages and are not actually there. And we played a video from Taboo Conspiracy with his consent that was given afterwards the show. So for the record, it was given with full consent, but it was retrospective because he's a trusted friend. He knows that we're not going to hurt him. But I quipped up with a quirk, which was Sly Sparkane also thinks this, because basically the point of the video was that periscopes show distant ships that would be behind the curvature of the Earth. They're not actually there. So what you see is actually a mirage. So the famous word of the weatherman, what you see here is a mirage, is essentially what we're talking about. Now, if you believe that something that you can see is actually behind the curvature of the Earth, and it's therefore being loomed up with a little bit of slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena, then the conversation between periscope operators on a submarine would go somewhat like what we showed in the video, which was, no, don't get that ship. That one's clearly too far away. It's being loomed up from behind the curvature. Yeah, that one's okay, so you can shoot that one. And then the one behind, no, you can't shoot that one. And obviously periscope operators or submariners do not have that conversation. And if there's any evidence that they do, then please present some. Otherwise, the boat that you see isn't actually a mirage. It is actually there. And I quipped up right at the very end as the show finished and said that Sly Sparkane also thinks this. I'd just like to clarify my position. Not because it was a lie, but my position is this. If you guys think that things are being loomed up from behind the horizon, then you believe that these things are mirages and they're not really there. Bit like Mackle Lighthouse. If you think that what we see isn't physical and it's a loomed, refractioned, mirage-y thing, then it means that you also have to believe and accept the argument that submariners, when they use a periscope, actually argue about whether something's physically there or not. So just to be clear, I said that Sly says this, and I didn't mean it literally. Or believes this. Sly must believe this because this is the position. If you think that things in the distance aren't really there because they're behind the curve and they're being loomed up with a little bit of slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena, then it means that when you fire your trajectory, your missile, your shell, your mortar, whatever weapon that you choose to fire, you're going to be firing at a ghost. It's not physically there. If you believe that based on the periscope video we played yesterday, then obviously it's nonsense. Anyway. So just to correct the position, I didn't mean like Sly.
Hello, Imric. How you doing? Good to have you here.
But he does.
Hello. I'm here.
Who is it?
Didn't want to get the Insta boot. What? It's me.
Ah, the one that thinks Nathan and Riley are dishonestly lying. Can you clarify what your position is currently?
Sure. On the tall hill, there's a measurement 114 down at the steepest angle you can get. But if you get the angle from Honest Miles Davis, you get 130 feet. And if you use Nathan's angle of 45.7, you get 93 feet instead of 81 feet.
I'm not aware who you're talking about. Who is Honest Miles Davis? We don't have anybody in that by that name.
I think he means the measure that Miles didn't make in one measure. He did it with a too short of a tape measure, and then showed us a picture of a number 100 next to some earth and nothing else. And apparently we're to accept that tape measure reading that isn't a tape measure reading. It's two tape measure readings as more accurate. Apparently that's what Imric's saying.
No, I'm saying it's more accurate to get down the angle instead of measuring straight down and then using an angle.
What do you mean straight down? There is no straight down.
No, but do you understand the reason why that happened, Rick?
I do understand the reason, but when you show it's 114 feet and then get an angle from 100 that's different, that would be actually 130 feet, then you're being deceptive.
What are you
Okay,
talking about? We
so
ran
let
a...
me-
Hold on, I want to clarify. It's me that did this tape measure reading, Imric. So what exactly do you feel I did wrong? We ran a tape measure down to the bottom and then took a number off it. What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that.
So what's your issue? I don't understand.
The issue is then you said you calculated it at 45.7, which I know you weren't standing or laying at the base where the 114 was.
That's exactly
You
what
were
I was
somewhere
doing.
down the beach.
Sorry, that's exactly what I did.
You laid down on the beach right
Yeah,
where the
so I was
114
on the beach right next to it. Hence, Mark Taylor asked why I didn't measure the right-hand side elevation, which appeared higher. Well, it was right next to me. So that's about 12 feet tall. But it looks higher in the picture because I'm right on top of it. Literally right next to it. Silence. I love it.
Nathan,
Well,
would you mind
didn't
showing my
sho-
screen
you
on
didn't
Skype
show
so
that.
that the
You
Rick can see
showed
this?
a point to 114, and then you got an angle at a lower elevation. So I don't know
Rick.
what you're talking about.
Rick,
I
let
don't
me,
know what
let me
you're talking
respond to
about.
that.
I used an app that was told to me by GeoStreamer as an acceptable app. I did the calculation because I want it accurate. I'm not interested in getting any fudged figures for where that measurement was taken from. Not in the slightest. The variable between the lighthouse and the observation position is what I'm interested in, not the tide. The tide is a variable. Yeah, we have to use it to get the data from, which is a frustration. But if you had literally a completely horizontal bridge between the observation point and that lighthouse, the difference in height, i.e. how much higher or lower that lighthouse is versus the observation position, is what I'm interested in. The only way I'm going to get to that, Imric, is by taking as accurate a measurement as I can physically take. I couldn't care less about where the tide actually is at any given time because the land doesn't move at all. It's fixed. So I need to get accurate measurements. That's the only thing I'm interested in. After the fact, I looked at the various different diopter pictures and I could have fudged it lower. Then Ranty explained and showed me that when they measured it, they got it lower. And I'm like, yeah, I could have got it lower. I could have also got it higher very easily. But I'm not interested in getting some fudged figure. If I'm going to go over to the Isle of Man in a boat, use the exact same app to look up at that cliff that the lighthouse sits on and get an accurate measurement of where that is. If I've done anything disingenuous or dishonest, I'll be deceiving myself. I want to get an accurate differential between the 2 points of land, not the sea. So what I need to get that is an accurate measurement. You're accusing me of dishonesty. If you want to assume that, then that's fine. I don't care. I'm not here to deceive anybody because I'm only trying to prove it to me.
Can I also respond, Nath? Would you mind sharing my screen, please? Firstly, the question, Rick,
Showing
do you
the
accept
screen,
that?
if Nathan, if you would have got the angle to the high point, then you would have had 5 degrees higher. You understand you got it to a different point that's 5 degrees lower. That's why it's not correct.
What point are you talking about?
When you got the 45.7, you went to a lesser angle than the 114 foot measured to. If you wanted to do the 114 foot, you had to get to where the 114 foot measurement was.
Nath,
I've no idea what he's talking about. I've done it as accurately as I possibly can. If he wants to quibble over it, then fine. I don't care.
right, let me address this. I can deal with this really easy, but just put my screen on so Rick can see it. The first question, Rick, do you accept that the shortest possible distance that the tape could get down that hill is 114 feet? Do you accept that value?
Yes.
Great. The reason why we did it that way was so that we didn't have to try and calculate or measure an angle, because last time we did that, the rumpus decided that he didn't like that angle and he changed my evidence. Rather than dismiss my evidence and say why, he literally changed it and represented it as something that it was never. So I didn't like that. So I said to Nathan, I'm not letting that happen again. We need to do this in a way that rumpus can't do that. So we decided we wouldn't take an actual measured, or we wouldn't try and get a measured angle, because you can't manipulate evidence. It's that simple. He did that, and that's a foul. That's dishonest, because he's got no reason to do that. And even if he has, his remedy is to dismiss it. But if you accept that the shortest possible distance that the tape could get down that cliff is 114, basically, we can substitute whatever angle you want to. And if you say that 47 or whatever was too high, and then it would be, what did you say it would be?
Well, just from looking at Nathan's, it looks about 5 to 6 degrees difference.
Going bigger or smaller?
Give us an angle, Imric. What angle do you think I should have on that dioptrap?
I think you should have put the X on that.
Give me in a number with a degrees afterwards.
51. You just want me to guess?
Basically, so from 47 to 51, 47, the height, according to this, is 77.6 feet. If it goes up to 51, it makes the height 70. Well, that's 52. So that's 51. So 51 and a half, 70.9. So
yeah,
really,
you're doing the wrong angle.
You're
doing the wrong angle. You look at the bottom angle.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you were at the bottom. That's right. My apologies. Let me get rid of that. Sorry, that was my mistake. There we go. That's the one that we're on. So if I click that one first, oh, hang on, and then put in the lower value. So what was it? 51 was it? So if you accept that the 114 is the right length, and then we play around with the angle here. So basically, what was it? 47. Is that what Nathan said it was?
I'm just guessing 51 the angle.
So basically, the 47 that you cited from Nathan gives it an 83, right?
51.
And if you put it up to 51,
no, Nathan did 45.7.
Nathan did 45.7 happens to be 81 and a half. And if you put it to 51,
yes,
it takes it to 89. It's not making that much difference.
Yes, and then a 4-foot tripod, that makes you 93 feet.
So 93 feet is still not that much of a difference. I'm happy with whatever value that you give.
Then you add the tide.
Okay, Rick.
Sure.
Fine. We've done what you asked, and it's made a couple of feet difference. Fine. Whatever. Now, there's a 165-foot bulge that blocks your view of the lighthouse. Do you accept that, regardless of the few feet you've just quibbled over, you have in no way cleared the obstruction of that bulge?
Yes, only 15 feet is visible from 126
Wrong.
feet.
The picture shows more than that. That is not what is demonstrated in the evidence,
Yes, it
Rick.
is.
Sorry. Sorry, hold on, Rick. Hold on.
Oh, you're
Anthony,
right, you're right.
Anthony, can you just bring up the picture before Rick talks all over me? Can you just bring up the picture of the lighthouse and demonstrate to him that we don't see the tippy top of the lighthouse, then that we see the base of the lighthouse and the stuff beneath the lighthouse, please, just for Rick's benefit, as he's just claimed that we see the tippy top like Alex did yesterday. Can you see what's on screen, Imric? Do we just see the top of the lighthouse? Please, Anthony, can you grab a new tab and demonstrate to Rick what he has just claimed by putting a tab underneath the lighthouse where he claims the refracted hidden value brings it back to, so we can demonstrate what he has just said is represented in this picture. Just put the metabunk calculator underneath the lighthouse with the tippy top of it showing.
I need whatever value Rick wants this number to be. Rick, what number do you want?
I say it's 130.
130. Right. So
why? Hold on. Why?
Because he's just fudging
the tide was out, all the way out.
Well, go and you tell me, Rick. How far was the tide lower than the measured point that you've given as 109? How much lower did the tide go from the high tide point?
I don't know.
Well, why are you giving a value of 130 feet then? Let's put in the value that he has calculated, 109. You've just fudged it up. If you can't fudge it up with the tide, we'll use the measured values to the water, thank you very much. If you want to go and get the tide data and actually do a good job, go and do it. Don't just arbitrarily slap another 22 feet on.
No, the tide is known to be 29 feet.
No, the maximum differential between the maximum high tide and maximum low tide is 29 feet. That's not the low tide on that day. Go and get the low tide for that day, not the maximum differential for the maximum low tide ever possible. When I gave the extreme values in my comments, I made it very clear. 29 feet is the absolute maximum the tide could go down from that measured point. the absolute maximum. So if you want to go and extrapolate the data based on accurate data that you can gather, then I'll pay attention to it. Don't arbitrarily slap another 30 feet on because it's the maximum differential.
We'll
And that
figure out what
value,
93 feet and 29 feet is, whatever that is. Put
I
that
don't
in.
care what the maximum differential. Did you not just hear what I just said, Imric? The 30 feet, 29 feet that you've just quoted
you tell me
is
what
the
it was then.
maximum tide difference possible. Now, I have, with Chris last night, spent a long time extrapolating out the mean sea level based on the accurate data I measured. Now, I've gone and done this work. You want to go and arbitrarily slap on the maximum differential? Sod that!
All right. So in another way, what Nathan's saying is that if, for example, we went with this tide height, it's 6.6, but the low tide value is 2.4. So 2.4 to 6.6 is significantly different to, say, this one, for example, that's 8.9 down to 0.8. And what Nathan's saying is the absolute worst case example is 29 feet. And what he's saying is that by you attributing 29 feet is grossly unfair because the amplitude of the tide that day wasn't anything like the higher value. It was nearer to this. Well, it was somewhere in the middle. But the point is, you can't go with the absolute maximum because that includes the spring tides that's disproportionately high. And you shouldn't do that if you're to be reasonable. And what he's saying is you need a better value. So the date
Well,
in
then tell
question
me what it
was...
is.
You go and tell us. You're the one challenging my measurement, Rick. Go and do it, you bloody keyboard warrior. Don't tell me to do it for you. How dare you? Get your ass in gear and go on the computer, find out the tide heights, extrapolate mean sea level, then minus off the tide. That's what you need to do.
So basically, there are websites that you can go to where you get the historic tide
Tell me
heights.
what it is. And we'll
No!
skip all
How many times do I have to say this to you, lazy sod? Go and do it yourself!
20 times. 20 times you have to tell me.
Well, I'll tell you a few more, you lazy crap. Go and do it yourself.
Nate, right, the date in question that you need to look up, Rick, is the 27th of October 2017. If you go and get the amplitude heights and get the differential between the two values, then you can pluck a figure. It won't be 29. It'll be it'll be low 20s. Now, if you're prepared to just substitute a low 20s number because it's more reasonable, then we can carry on. But Nathan's objecting to the 29 because it's,
why are you acting like an
extreme
expert versus
height.
people who did it themselves, Rick?
Punch whatever the low 20 number is. Is it 23? Punch that
You
in
give
there.
us a value, Rick. You're the one asking us to do it.
But you don't want to know what it is.
No, I've
93
rejected your
to 23.
arbitrary 30 feet value based on maximum differential. This has been explained. Now I'm asking you to give
now he
us
says
a
it's
more
low
realistic
20,
figure.
so put that in.
You tell me what's the realistic tide you feel we should minus off. Your extrapolated up figure, ignoring my diopter measurement. So we've already fudged this figure once. Now you want to put some more fudge on it. Go ahead.
No, you fudged the figure. The
I
figure
took
is
a diopter
93
measurement from the
feet
actual
high-
location, Rick.
highest
You
point.
haven't left your keyboard. Do you want to make that clear to the audience that you haven't moved a sodding inch and I've gone and actually measured it?
Incorrectly, though.
Oh, right. It's easy to criticise from your keyboard, isn't it?
It's easy to tell you.
Yeah,
missed
I
it.
criticise your absolutely pathetic videos with your scrawl and scribble. You are possibly the worst videographer I've ever seen. How easy is it for me to criticise you, Imric, and your pathetic attempts at videography? Very easy, isn't it? I can criticise you all day. Can't you use a ruler on a computer? Don't you know how to draw a straight line in a paint program? Are you an idiot, Rick? Are you? Do you not know how to produce a straight line in a computer?
Not really.
Right,
Not
so
on
don't criticise my measuring techniques when you don't know how to draw a straight line.
Anyway, did you see my eagle that landed in my backyard? I thought that was a
I don't
pretty
give a
big
crap about your eagle. Give us a tide measurement so you can round out your crap point with your fudged figures.
Rick, let me suggest that a reasonable value at this point would be 120 because that's somewhere in. It's
Hi,
towards
Dawn
the
Treader,
higher
how you
end of the
doing? Good to have you here. Can you say a quick hello?
Hi.
Hiya, good to have you.
Hello. Hi.
So if you're happy to go with a more reasonable, not the maximum possible that you could possibly get at the lowest tide, 120 is a more reasonable figure. Would you be happy with that? Just for
I
the
don't
sake
know.
of discussion,
I don't
just
know
say
what the
yes.
tide was. You told me to just guess at it.
Just say yes for the sake of discussion.
Okay, sure. Let's do it 120.
Okay. All right. So this is the actual evidence in question that we're actually looking at. Okay. Now, what the point is at the new elevation that we're all happy with and nobody seems to be arguing over at the moment, there is a bulge between us of 165 feet. The drop's still the 661, and the hidden value, the geometric hidden value of 218 feet, is greater than the height of that lighthouse plus the rocks underneath. Okay. Geometrically speaking, that lighthouse is gone behind the curvature of the Earth. Do you understand that?
Yes, at 120. Yes.
Right.
Excellent. So just so I can get this for the audience, as we've had Alex do it, so you concede that what we are seeing is not actually the lighthouse at all. We can't see the lighthouse. It isn't there in Rick, correct?
At 120. Yes.
So that's where the tide should actually be. The horizon should be there. That's the high point. That's reflecting the bulge. Now, what your position is presumably going to be, well, we can bring some of this back with refraction. Is that right?
Well, there's more to it than that, but yes, refraction is real. You've demonstrated it in your other photo of 2 lighthouses.
What do you mean?
Where you compared 2 lighthouses and you got 2 different amounts under it, it showed refraction.
Are you talking about the other image that Ranty got? Is this the one that you're referring to?
Yeah, put both of them side by side and you'll see a difference.
Oh, I think
No
there
problem.
should be sorry, just for the audience's benefit. Yesterday, Anthony found a stacked set of images. So about 100 images were taken from Ranty's camera, and they were then given to a guy who stacked them all one on top of the other, obviously making certain things a bit more blurry than others. So since then, Anthony's gone and got a single still, which is what we now have on screen now. So this is a single still.
Really good photo, by the way.
It's a single still of the lighthouse taken in totally different conditions on a totally different day at a totally different sea level. So these are the 2
Quality
images of the lighthouse side by side.
So the sea level changed it. Is that what you just said?
Yes, it would have been at a completely different sea level, unless you're about to suggest that the inch to the inch, both seas were exactly the same at both these photos, which is quite literally preposterous.
Well, then, if the sea level changed, that means the hump changed, right?
You tell me, is there any difference in hump?
What hump?
Well,
Evidently, it's either the hump or
Or the sea?
refraction.
Or the sea? Or the sea changing in height?
It is hump day.
So, just to be clear, there is something absolutely unequivocally happening here. The sea does change in level, regardless of what Imric just spouted. The sea does change level. We know this for certain. So the sea has changed level in these 2 different pictures. However, in both images, we still have a 165-foot bulge blocking our view of both lighthouses on both days, and yet they're there on both occasions. What do you know? It's not totally different, slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena, the exceptional situation. No. 2 different days, 2 different cameras, 2 different people, 2 different set of circumstances and conditions. There's the 2 pictures we get. Interesting.
Yes, it is interesting because when the sea is lower, the hump is lower.
What are you talking
And you
about?
see more.
The sea's lower, therefore the sea's lower. What's this hump? We don't see a hump, Rick. You understand, we've just explained it to you 3 times. There's supposed to be a hump blocking the view. There isn't one in either of the 2 pictures. So now we've got 2 different pictures on 2 different days. Hold on, Rick, I'll just explain it to you again. Just to introduce this hump that I've just explained to you in very clear terms. Isn't there? There is no hump blocking the view. See that? That's not happening, Rick. We see the lighthouse on both pictures, on different days, in different conditions, with different sea levels, from different people, with different cameras. Coincidentally identical in make and model.
What you're saying,
and the
Rick,
hump,
is you can't
and the
argue
hump
it's
is
the hump
blocking
if
all
it's
the
in
way
the
to
wrong
the
place.
bottom one
The
day,
hump is
and it's
blocking
blocking
nothing.
less than that.
The hump blocks nothing.
What you're saying, Rick, is if this
It's
is the hump
blocking
that you're describing,
138
the hump
feet
should be the...
on one.
Where's the 138 feet value come from? I've just explained it. I'll explain it again. 165 feet bulge is higher than 120 feet in elevation. It is blocking your view. You have already conceded this. We cannot see this lighthouse on a sphere because the sphere gets in the way. That's a fact. Alex conceded it, and so have you. It's not there.
But the lighthouse is 213 foot tall, so 165 foot is less. Do you understand that? Straight line?
So what
From
are we
100
doing?
foot to
Mathematics?
213?
Oh, sorry, hold on. I just want to confirm what we're now doing. So are we now doing the mathematics on a mirage? Is that what you now want me to do?
Absolutely not. I'm not giving you anything. I'm saying actual height, 120 feet to 213 foot, put 165 in the middle, and it doesn't block 213
Wrong.
feet.
Geometrically speaking, let's go to the drop figure. In terms of its physical location, it is 661 feet below your feet, Rick, according to your bullshit globe maths. So let's put that tab in front of the lighthouse again. There's the hump blocking your view. And where it actually sits is 650 feet below your actual position, which is blocked in terms of your 120 feet altitude by 165 feet hump. Now, I will ask you again, did you want to do the mathematics for a mirage?
Sure, we'll do the mathematics for a mirage.
Why?
But just so you understand that
Why?
165 feet is
Sorry,
lower
why
than
are we doing the
13
mathematics
feet.
for a mirage? I don't really understand. Are you now telling me that
Oh, you
what we
wanna-
see in this picture, we can't really see? It's not really there. That's not a real representation. We're going to do maths on something that's physically not there. That's what we're about to do, Rick. Correct? Why?
If you want to.
No, I'm asking you to account for why your sphere, let's put the bulge in the way again. This is the view your bulge gives us. The bulge blocks the view, Rick. We can't see it. Also, confounding that problem is it's 661 feet below your feet on the other side of that hill that you can't see through. So, we can see it in reality. I want you to explain why. And the next step of bullshit in your maths is to claim that it's a mirage and that you can do the maths on that mirage. I want you to tell me why it's acceptable to do mathematics on things that physically aren't there. I want an explanation for why we are going to do the maths on a mirage, if we are going to do the maths on a mirage. Why is this acceptable to you, to do mathematics on things that are not really there?
So I can answer now? Okay, so if you take the height, which I believe at 126 feet, and then you take the lighthouse at 213, you have to understand that the tide is down on the lighthouse side too, making it effectively higher off the water, making the hump less. At that point, you would see more than 15 foot visually directly using no refraction. If you add the refraction in, you could see all the way to the bottom of the lighthouse. That's why you would use refraction.
No,
Sorry, that's not what
not
we
how
see.
refraction works.
Bear with me, Arwin. Sorry, just to clarify what Rick
Refraction
is
bends
saying.
light upwards, not downwards. That's
So,
non-standard refraction.
Are you
It's
saying,
the
Rick, that we have a
non-standard.
direct line of sight with the top of the lighthouse that is 661 feet below our feet?
I'm saying with 126 feet and a 213 foot lighthouse, that you have 15 foot saying that.
Hello, Nathan. Just
Sorry,
like to say hello.
I just didn't get a yes or no answer. Do we have a direct line of sight with the lighthouse? Yes or
Part
no?
of it, yes.
We do have a direct line of sight with the lighthouse.
Yes.
Well, it's
Part
just,
of it.
Hold on. So if we have a direct line of sight with the lighthouse, then we only use direct line of sight measurements. So according to you, we see 2 feet of the lighthouse. Let's bring 2 feet of the lighthouse back. Now we have to do direct line of sight measurements with everything else in the island. Correct, Rick?
No, you have 15 foot plus an additional drop because the tide is down.
No, Rick. Are we doing direct
Yes.
line of sight measurements now? Are we ignoring this refraction maths below or not?
I haven't put refraction in there, but if you want to do
no,
that,
good.
then
So we're
we'll do
ignoring refraction and saying we have a direct line of sight with the lighthouse, correct? Because you're saying we have 3
it.
feet
So
of it brought
200
back.
to 15 foot of it, yes.
Right. Is that what we see in the picture, Rick?
No.
Right, so that's a complete and total fail, correct?
No. Then you
So we
add
do
refraction.
see the lighthouse, even though we don't see it. Rick, you don't seem to be making much sense, my friend. Either we do have a direct line of sight with the lighthouse in your model, in which case the question remains, why isn't the lighthouse in the picture? In your model, we only see 4 feet of it. Why is that not represented
15.
in this model?
15.
So I've got the figures in front of me.
15 feet.
Right, yeah, 15 feet, 3 feet. We haven't got the representation that we have on this picture, though, do we? So if you take a direct
Agreed.
line of sight measurement to it, Rick, it doesn't account for what we actually see in the picture.
Agreed.
Right, so it's a total fail, Rick.
No, you use refraction.
So we are turning so we don't have direct lines of sight.
You have direct line of sight to
No, you
15
can't
foot
have
of
it both ways, Rick. You can't make a direct
Yes,
line
I
of
can.
sight with the... Let me
That's
explain it
what's
to you,
happening.
Rick. No, let's just shut you up so I can explain it in simple terms. You can't make a direct line of sight measurement to the top of the lighthouse and then use an arc calculation for the stuff below it. You can't have it both ways. You can only make arc calculations for the entire island or straight line measurements for the entire island. You have to pick one or the other. So, Rick, either the entire island is looming and is in fact a mirage, or we have a direct line of sight, one or the other. The direct line of sight and in fact the refracted figure do not account for the observation. Both fail.
Do you
Hello,
agree we
Nathan.
can see
I
15
think
Hello,
foot
Chris.
of
Good to have you.
to concede that
120
they
feet.
Thank you,
actually
mate.
believe that you can look around the corner.
So, Chris, why
make
would
it
you
work.
say that you were going to shut this show down?
I said it in anger. I apologise, Nathan. I was really angry.
Yeah, very funny, very funny.
People in his chat room, the Discord he's a part of, were talking about like suing
Actually, I think he deserves a
Riley
bit of
and
credit
Nathan
for
for fraud
apologising.
yesterday.
Really? Good that he's been
Yeah.
booted by me then. Don't be a
Great
dick,
people
Chris.
over there.
You're just talking about doxing people in the chat, Mars.
Oh yeah, they doxed me, and because like someone there, the George guy, that crazy George, he wanted to sue me for libel or something. What a joke! And they doxed me in the Discord so George could sue me. So great people there. Flat Earthers want to join the Discord and have a nice discussion. You might get doxed and sued, but don't worry about that. Just go talk to those guys.
Those guys being people who believe the globe, correct?
Yep.
So anything else to add, Imric? Failed twice so far to bring back or in any way represent what we see in this picture that's been done on 2 different days. Any other attempts to represent what we see in this picture / pictures?
Yes.
Go ahead.
At 126 feet to a 213 foot lighthouse, you don't need any refraction to see 15 foot of it. If the water's lower on the side of the lighthouse, you'll see more, maybe 50 feet.
We see all of it and the base below it and the rocks below it. That's complete nonsense.
That's the refraction.
Sorry, so again, you're conflating 2 different things. You either have a direct line of sight or the entire image is refracted. You can't have it both ways.
No, but he's even wrong with
You are
that
seeing the
because
refracted
it doesn't work
image.
that way. Refraction
But you
bands
do have a
light
direct
up.
line
It's
of sight to
non-standard
part of it.
refraction
Right,
that actually
Rick's
bands light down, and
stupid.
this
Let me
is not the
explain
right
it to Rick.
conditions for that.
Rick,
You have to
you
give that
can't
up.
have an arc calculation applied to the stuff you can't see and a direct line of sight with the stuff you do see. That's why when Rumpus calculated the top of Snaefell, which obviously you would assume you have a direct line of sight with, he applied an arc calculation, because the entire island is either visible or a mirage. Now, if you want to accept that you're on a globe, you have to accept that not only the bottom of the lighthouse is being refracted, but also every single part of the island, right to the tippy top of the mountains, even though logic would dictate that you just look up and see them. you have to apply an arc calculation. You can't have it so that you use your maths to find the tippy top of it with the direct line of sight and then bring the rest back with the band-aid refraction theory. Unfortunately, you have to use one or the other. Both fail, Rick. Both fail. That's why Rumpus is on Discord telling people about non-standard refraction, because both the bullshit maths fail to account for this observation. So you're into the maths that allows you to see your own arse in a telescope.
And Nathan, that was sniped there. Sorry, I was sniped. I apologise for that, Nathan. I was quite angry, so I'd just like to say that. I apologise for that.
Lovely. Apology not accepted.
Could I ask Riley about his editing of Wikipedia pages about lighthouses?
Go ahead, Dawn.
Why have you been doing that, Riley?
Because you can see Mackle Lighthouse from St. Bees.
Have you seen that yourself, or you're
Yes,
about
I have.
nighttime
I have,
observations,
Dawn.
or?
Yes, I've seen it with my own eyes. We've also contacted the... Well, I haven't. I don't know if Adam's still on this call. I think he may have dropped. He contacted the guy who runs the lighthouse. They've recently upgraded the lights in the lighthouse to LEDs. They can indeed be seen from St. Bees based on that. And I personally have observed that.
Right.
Hi. Is that Chris again? Chris.
Nice one.
Maybe you don't understand. You're not welcome. You understand that?
Why? I thought...
I don't need to give you any excuse or reason for kicking you out of my own show. I will just repeatedly kick you out if you try and join again. So, back to Rick. You've failed, and we've pointed out how you failed with both standard refraction and a direct line of sight. Anything else to add to try and account for this image, Rick?
Hello, I ping polenta. I know welcome here. You snipe me, I keep come back.
Yeah, we know how the game works with Globers that don't like being sniped after I catch them saying that they're going to try and shut the show down. You know, obviously I'm not going to allow you to be on the panel.
Changing that one Wikipedia entry makes Earth flat, or?
Sorry,
Just like
you asked a question about whether or not we could see the lighthouse from St. Bees. We can. We've also contacted the actual lighthouse operator, who has said that they have recently overhauled the lighthouse and installed LED lights, and they can indeed be seen from St. Bees. Is there any other issues you have, Dawn?
I just think it's funny you're going around editing tiny Wikipedia entries.
What's wrong with that? Wikipedia is your version of reality, and reality as we saw it was a lighthouse flashing at the point of Morgold Lighthouse in the exact sequence of Morgold Lighthouse from St. Bees. According to Wiki,
honest, I don't care
according to Wiki, the projected light...
If all the measurements you took were correct, like, it doesn't make Earth flat in any way. It's
sorry,
not even close, you know what I mean?
Actually,
it's not even 1% toward a flat Earth.
You have a choice,
even
Dawn.
if all your measurements were correct and you never lied at all.
Dawn, you have a choice. I'm not insisting that you accept that the Earth is flat based on my measurements of anything. You have a choice. You can accept that you can take a direct straight line measurement to the top of Snaefell, the lighthouse, anything on that picture, and you can just see it with a straight line, like we expect to see things. We see in straight lines. That's normal. That's life. You go to pick up a glass, you pick it up because you see in a straight line. Simple. Now then, when you apply that to the flat Earth model, what you end up with is a tool that can be used to measure anything on the island.
There isn't a flat Earth model. Sorry,
yeah, we have. We've demonstrated it. It's called Flat Earth
No, you
Model
don't. You
of
just,
Isle
you
of
have
Man. Hi, Gary. How you doing?
On a flat
Can you hear
plane
us?
in Blender. That's not a flat Earth model.
But we do.
Hi, Gary. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Yeah, Chris, why? You just don't like the rules. Please don't try to rejoin if I kick you. So you
Please
just
let Chris
repeatedly
play.
rejoin.
He's a
Makes me
nice
want to
kid.
kick you even more. So yeah, Dawn, I'm not trying to get you to accept. You can accept what Rumpus says. If you want to accept that slightly looming non-standard refraction bends the light around the curve of the Earth, projecting a perfectly represented image 650 feet beyond its location on the other side of a hill to present itself perfectly so that you can literally take measurements on it, then you can accept that as an explanation for being on a globe. That is an explanation that you can use. It works. Now that it's got art calculations, I can say that. It does work. Right. You can calculate the things on a globe. I'm not going to lie. But that's your choice. You have to choose whether or not you accept that you just see this stuff, or, like Rick and Alex and Rumpus and Paul, that you don't see it. It's not really there. It's a representation of what's on the other side of the hill being projected up to the horizon. That you can accept that if you choose to. I'm not lying in any way, shape or form. I'm presenting our side of what we see based on flat plane geometry. You don't have to accept it. I'm not telling you that's how it is. I'm saying that's how we see it. This is how we model it, with a flat plane and direct lines of sight. You model it, if you believe you're on a globe, with art calculations to things that you can't actually see and are behind a curve. You can accept that too if you want to. I'm not lying to you.
I can do this all the fucking day, Nathan. I apologise to you and you're being a prick.
Swearing. Don't do it.
I apologise to you. I apologised.
Let Chris play. He's here now.
Nathan, I apologise to you. If you can't accept the apology, I'll just fucking continue to control you. I can do this all day, every day.
Stop swearing, idiot.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just a bit angry that Nathan's not accepting my apology. I apologise. I said it in anger. I'm sorry.
How are you speaking? Are you not in the hangout? Are you coming through Dawn's channel?
Yes. I'm not, you know, I apologise several times, Nathan.
Bye, Dawn.
If you can't accept that apology. No, I'm not coming through Dawn's channel. I am not coming through Dawn's channel. I apologised, Nathan. I said it in anger. I've said it about fucking...
Are you doing it again?
God, I missed him. That's weird. Anyway.
Dude, just because you apologize doesn't mean that you have the right to have some kind of response to that. You apologize, leave it.
Nath, is it okay? I think Rick's gone now, hasn't he?
I don't know. He's still there on mute. Just doesn't have anything to say.
I think he's obviously being fed by somebody in Discord.
Maybe. I don't know.
Because that's what happens when there's periods of long silence.
So, Rick, you going to talk to us? I don't know. My connection lost to the Hangout. Give me a sec. I'll just refresh the page.
Is it okay if I do my presentation then whilst you're getting back in?
Yeah, just give me a sec. I just want to get back into the Hangout before I do. Otherwise, I'll... Just give me a minute.
Sure.
Bit too early to do a link. Problem with Google, it says. Interesting. Certainly not my internet connection that's fussy. Sorry about the dead air, folks. For some reason, my Hangouts page is saying that it can't be reached. I will give in for the time being, I think, Anthony, and just set you up with your page. Bear with me. I'll do that and then transition back to the audience and see what I can see. Have you got up what you wanted to have up?
Yeah.
This picture of the lighthouse and the maths.
Am I on present?
Not yet. Just give me 2 more secs. Yeah, you're ready to rock and roll.
Okay, so yesterday Nathan put up a short 60-second video. Most of you will have seen this. Nathan, if you just stick yourself on mute a sec so that people can hear it in the Hangout. And essentially he's asking the question, okay, so where the elevation where the floaty land is, the 35 feet observation, basically he's asking the question, how high is it? So I'm going to play the clip for those that haven't seen it, and if you have seen it, just bear with me, it's only a minute long.
This video will hopefully tie up a few loose ends in regards to the middle observation point, which Google quotas, I think, 34 feet. and Anthony and Ranty measured it, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, something like that, and showed me what they got, and I put this video together based on some of the stills that Anthony's girlfriend got, and Anthony got, and Ranty got. And you can probably see from what's on screen now, it didn't have a diopter measurement because they weren't using that app at the time, but
54 feet in this location. So you can see that. 54, 55.
So just for comparison, this is the cliff that ended up measuring 81 feet above high tide, and this is the cliff that, well, Google quotes as 34. You tell me, what's the angle? How high is it?
Now, again, this is one of those measurements that we did because we wanted to, well, basically we want to know what the value is, but I didn't want to put a calculated or measured angle in because the rumpus will just change it and everybody will accept it. Nobody will challenge it and everybody will just say, oh, no, forget that. All we wanted to know was what was the actual measurement of the hypotenuse and then leave no angle in place. Now, the angle, the hypotenuse is 54 feet it is. 55 if you want to be exaggerate by the extra foot. But point being, that now gives you an element to work out what is the actual height. Now, obviously, the angle of 55, the hypotenuse of 55 limits what the actual height that Ranty is at. It limits that point. Now, I want to play you a clip from Steve Anthony's hangout recently where Rumpus and Geo and about 15,000 other ballers got involved in. It was supposed to be a 3-on-3, but it ended up being 6-on-3, 7 at times, if you include the mod being biased in favour of the ball earthers, but I digress. This is a clip now from that hangout of Rumpus declaring his position to what this is based on a 55 feet hypotenuse, which he did not know at the time. So this is Rumpus's words. This file, this bit along the top here, is just an aid memoir, so that you can remember it. It'll appear in the top corner as a like a subtitle kind of thing.
That gives you 27.27 meters. So that's the value you've got to start plugging into the curve calculator to start working out if you're seeing any land. Any other value less than that is absolutely to be ignored. Forget it. It's irrelevant. You're making bogus claims. We're not going to be interested in any claims that involve an observed height for anything from this position that is not more than 27.27 meters. If you start sticking in any value into the curve calculator less than that, we're going to say, we're ignoring you. You're not making any sense because we've established your height, because we know that Ordnance Survey is accurate. And so don't give us anything below 27, which is 89.4 feet.
Can I just say something, Rumpus? I'm going to quote on them words. We're going to strip off that exact soundbite of what you've just said. And when Miles Davis goes and measures it, and then we validate his work.
Already done.
We'll see what height you guys actually get. So I've got Geo Streber's comment on the video, only from last night or early hours this morning. So Geo's putting it the height of that rock or that height of that hill at 27.5 meters. And the Rumpus has already said anybody that's quoting anything below 27, we're not going to be conceding it. So he's just over the 27, but they both think that it's around about 90 feet. Now, if I bring back the triangle calculator, this is a really nifty website. It's called visualtrig.com. And what it allows you to do is put in fixed values for a triangle that you know to be true. So we can put in 54. That's the known value. And all we're going to do is play around with the angles here to basically manipulate the value that we're looking at here. So if we can make this a little bit bigger. So visualtrig.com is quite cool for this purpose. So with a known hypotenuse of 54 feet, the absolute maximum it could be, if you bring it right the way in, is basically 54. Now, obviously, the cliff isn't like that. The cliff is like somewhere, it's somewhere around about here. I mean, it's 40-ish, 45, 43, 47, who cares? Point is, look at the value that's here. So as I put it in, I mean, if I just flick back to the actual picture so that you can have a look at it yourself, if we go back to the picture, I mean, I'm stood trying to get a clear line there because I've got to clear these overhangs so that we can get a straight hypotenuse. But whatever angle that you're happy with putting me at, you can create a triangle, and it's clearly not a really steep triangle like this. So what it allows you to do is it allows you to bring whatever values that you want in. Now, if you want to argue that it's a really, really steep angle, which is clearly not the case, but if you want to argue it's a really steep angle, it goes up as high as 52. But if you want to be more reasonable with what it looks like, you can take it to somewhere around about there, and that would be arguably a reasonable figure. And that only puts it to 42. But in actual fact, the reality is, as far as, well, we have got different measured angles for this, and we're not prepared to reveal them because Rumpus will change them. But essentially, it's around about this kind of area. This is where the kind of area is. And as you can see, it's not that far off the 35 that Google Earth gives it. So the point is, yeah, it may be 3 or 4 feet off, depending on what the angle is. But you can throw a tape over and get a hypotenuse of 54. Ranty's done it. I've done it. Nathan didn't do it the other day, but he accepts that this figure is accurate. 54 is the limitation. So it means that no matter what angle it is, doesn't really matter. Rumpus can change whatever angle he wants to fudge it any way he wants. It means that the value is around about.
Can I add something there? So this is, I'll give clarity at this point. So there was a stage a couple of weeks ago when you made these observations where you'd got the measurements. These were they. And I was like, I don't want you releasing this. It's just going to cause arguments. And this is the reason. You can see what they've got. Now, they did take various different methods to get the angle. I didn't like any of them. But this is when they were literally first attempt doing any of these measurements. So they had, I'm not going to say they had no idea what they were doing, but they had no idea what they were doing. They'd never done it before. So, ultimately speaking, I didn't think was acceptable to be released. Now we're in a position where I would consider that the point below it has had several people measure it, and you've got a pretty good idea what the lower elevation is, the car park, that triangle with the steps that have been eroded away there. That's been measured, you know, to a very good degree. You know, it's not, no one's going to ever get it accurate, but ultimately it's a good measurement for the bottom. The top, the same applies. Miles Davis has run a tape measure down. If you extrapolate it out as Rick did and add a bit of bullshit, it comes out to pretty much what I got it to. And, you know, so everyone else seems to be happy to accept that measurement, and I'm happy with it, which is really all I want to satisfy is me. But ultimately speaking, I'm happy with the lower measurement, the higher measurement. So this is now the point where the first thing they measured may not have been the first. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I don't care. But this measurement that they got, which was rough around the edges when they got it, can now be released. It's like, well, so what? We can put it out for a bit of fun. It's folly. You know, guess the angle. Who cares? You can blatantly tell that it's not going to be higher than 55 feet, you know, from this particular point, which would be high tide. You know, this is on the shore. It's not going to be claimed as being mean sea level or low tide. We're not going to lie as we're accused of. You know, we are telling you what we're measuring. Again, people have said, you know, at high tide, when we've measured the high cliff, I had a comment from somebody who's like that. It's like, I've put in as much data as I can get. I didn't have control of Anthony's camera at the top of the hill, so I would have got more from that particular vantage, but there was enough frames to show where the sea was in relation to us, where the seaweed that had been washed up was in relation to us, all that kind of stuff. If you want to say that I've been disingenuous, feel free. I'm doing it as accurately as I can to my satisfaction. And I'm not intending to lie to myself, because I want to literally, potentially get on a boat and go and measure the other side. And I want to be able to get it accurate. Because all I'm interested in isn't the tide height, it's the differential in the actual height of the lighthouse versus the actual height of the observation. That's all that really matters. Those 2 points are fixed on the Earth. So they're what really matters. In that respect, the globe's already failed. I've already said this 1,000 times. It's 650 feet below your feet as far as they're concerned. The water's all curving all from your location, despite the fact we don't see it. Refraction's accounting for it. There's a lot of layers of bullshit that you have to wade through to get to an explanation to just look at this picture. In the flat Earth model, we just look at it. Then stuff is there. But ultimately speaking, when it came to measuring this particular hill, I didn't think there was enough data to release it. All they really had that you could take was 54, that actual number. That's the only bit of accuracy in this measurement. And it's not a drop. You know, you can't measure a drop. Obviously, the cliff comes out at an angle. But the point Anthony's making is that plenty of people, if you do Rick's trick and say, okay, White Rule, you've got it to 55, well, basically that brings it to about, if you want to be erring on the, you know, it's almost vertical, which it isn't, you know, that's 50. Well, if you take it, the absolute maximum low tide value off that, even though again it's an extreme fudged figure, you'd say an extra 29 feet on top of that. So you're getting nowhere near what Rumpus has claimed at 90 feet. You know, he's saying that anything below that would be just immediately discarded. It's like, well, when you actually do the maths on it, when you actually go and measure it, even with rough extrapolations that have gone up in value, fudged upwards, we still don't get near to 90 feet above sea level. It just isn't. So I think that's the point Anthony's making, and I've got to agree with him.
And the thing is, of course, GeoStreamer commits to this same value as well, but their values that they're putting in, 27 meters, is 90 feet. It's 3 times taller than what it actually is. This 35 to 40 feet is the height of an average, like a normal 3-bed semi. If you stand on the apex of your house, you'll have a triangle roof underneath you. It's more like that. Then you'd have your first floor, and then you'd have the ground floor. 35 feet.
This is
Google
bollocks.
it,
Sorry, Anthony. This is nonsense.
You
You can't do that. This is nonsense. So you've got to measure. This is what I said to you when you presented it me the first time. All this extrapolation with scaling houses and scaling people, it means nothing. You've got a number, 54 feet. That's the number that you ran down that at an angle. That's all you've got. And to extrapolate it further, while I laugh at the fact that nobody's prepared to put a value on it, and I know why, because that value is going to be less than 55 feet. And ultimately speaking, no matter what you do with the maths from there on in, the Rumpus and GeoStreamer are way out. They're much higher than that based on real world measurements. Even if you don't have anything more than 55 feet, you can extrapolate it out from there. You know,
so
if you pretended it was vertical, 55 feet, right, and then you add on 29 feet for the absolute maximum low tide it could be, even though it obviously isn't going to be that, you still end up less than 90 feet, and that's if the tape measure had dropped vertically. You know, you're still at 84 feet. So
let me just play Rumpus's words. I know it's mid-sentence, but listen to what he says.
Value less than that is curve calculator. Just start working out if you're seeing any land. Any other value less than that is absolutely to be ignored. Forget it. It's irrelevant. You're making bogus claims. We're not going to be interested in any claims that involve an observed height for anything from this position that is not more than 27.27 meters.
So not more than 27.27 meters. So ultimately, do you accept that Rumpus's claim there of 27 meters is accurate, or 55 feet is the hypotenuse? And fundamentally, if you put that back into the trig, fundamentally you cannot get any value. Well, it's basically between 35 and 40.
Well, I could flip that statement on his head. So he said anything less than 27 meters we won't accept. Well, based on purely on a tape measure running and actually measuring it at the absolute maximum values you can stretch that to, i.e. the tape measure was basically vertical drop, and then you add on 29 meters for the absolute maximum the low tide could be, you end up at 25 meters. So basically, I'm going to flip what Rumpus said on its head and say anything higher than 25.6 meters is completely disingenuous. And you know what falls into that category? What Rumpus declared, you mustn't be any lower than. So at this point, I'm going to say, Rumpus, hello. Trusting the Ordnance Survey may not be such a good idea, my friend, because it seems to be inaccurate too at various different points based on the measurements. And saying that it's got to be higher than 27 when it clearly isn't seems to be a little bit slippery, just the way I see it.
And the other thing is, of course, in the context of, I mean, we have had, what's his face, Miles the Liar Davis, and we've shown that his position or his elevation he worked from, he wasn't at 40 feet above. He was at the figure that Google Earth said. He was 30 feet, 29 feet he was above the actual water, maybe 31 if you're going to argue that we were a little bit inaccurate. But essentially, the value Google Earth gave this was 29 feet. Which is the most that I gave him. And if we give him a couple of extra feet for a bit of inaccuracy for human error, it's not wildly inconsistent. Now, we've just shown there that this point where the actual floaty land was taken, what is that land? That says it's 33, or it's now saying 33. It was saying 35 before. 34, 35. This isn't wildly inaccurate either. So of these two places, Google Earth's not that far out. I'm not saying it's accurate. So, Sean, if you're going to misrepresent my words, get them right. I'm saying they're not wildly inaccurate. I'm not saying they're actually accurate. I'm just saying they're not wildly inaccurate. Now, when it comes to the bigger observation up here, yeah, they're out. It was 52, it says on Google Earth for here, which is the number I've always been citing. I can't find 52 now when I want to, but 52 was the value that I always gave to this because it came from here. It turns out it was 80, 79 to 81. It's out. Not by loads, but it is out. It's out by, was it 50, 60, 70, 80, 30 meters? So,
sorry. sorry, maybe, I don't know if I've told you this already, but yeah, I spent a couple of hours with Chris last night actually extrapolating all the data to get you an actual mean sea level. So Rick was asking about this. Take note, Rick, you're about to get the information you need to minus off the tide. So the actual height for you based on mean sea level at spring tide. So the spring tide values are what they use at Morgul Lighthouse, which is why we've chosen those values and done it to the top point or the bottom of the cliff, the high tide mark basically. So that value gives you an extrapolated value of 92 feet above mean sea level. So if you're going to minus off values for the low tide, which you were at when you took the observation that was used to make the composite image, the starting point above mean sea level is 92 feet.
So therefore, above mean sea level, right? Okay, so therefore, whatever the value is here, yeah, it is a bit inaccurate, right? It was never our position that Google Earth was accurate. Our position was, this is what it says on Google Earth. So the conclusion is, Miles the Liar Davis's elevation wasn't that inaccurate. This lower elevation where that land, the floaty land was in the north, wasn't that inaccurate. This bit was a bit inaccurate. Not my problem. It's their model. It's their claim. Oh, but it falls within the 30 meters either way, Riley. How stupid I. Yeah, but the point is we can use these numbers to do the curve calcs. Now, if there's an adjustment either way, that adjustment has now been done. So it means that fundamentally we now have a relatively accurate, and I stand by it, and Nathan's been there and he's seen it, fundamentally we now have an accurate elevation. So, but even when we put in the maths, that lighthouse cannot be seen bar a few feet. Now, it's not what we see in the real world based on the actual evidence. What we see clearly is that we see all of the lighthouse plus the rocks beneath it. So this is the bit that the ballers need to argue. When they bring back the little tippy tops of it, they're wanting it to be, oh, well, we've brought back the whole lighthouse. No, you've only brought back a little tiny tippy top of it. But the evidence is showing the whole lighthouse plus the rocks underneath. What's the explanation for it? Oh, it's a mirage. Okay, so if it's a mirage, then you accept that you couldn't actually see it on the geometric shape of the Earth. All this is not really there. All this has been loomed back up from behind the horizon. So essentially, it comes back to the periscopes video from yesterday. Basically, anything that's far enough away from you isn't really there. That's what your position is. So you believe that this is actually an illusion. That makes you a fantasist because this is clearly part of a real picture. It is there. It's not an illusion. It is there. If you got a gun and fired at it, you would actually hit it.
Can I just get the exact measurement that Chris gave me? I'm trying to tie, it's like always with QED stuff, I'm trying to tie Ranty, Anthony, Chris and myself down to a particular time that we can do a full presentation and basically conclude all of this information in one foul swoop. All of the things that we went through initially, where we got it wrong, where we got it right, what the actual observation position and height is for each of the observations that have got claims attached to them, all of that we'll go through, but just so it's on this particular broadcast. So the exact number that Chris gave me based on all the maths was 92.17 feet above mean sea level for the higher observation point, the one that was measured to high tide at 81 feet. So that's the starting point to minus off high tide or plus on low tide, or the other way around as the case may be. But yeah, so that's the end number, 92.17 above mean sea level.
Well, I'm free tomorrow night.
Oh, Ranty, you're here. Brilliant. You're the last one I haven't asked. I asked Chris yesterday and he was all good with it. You're free tonight, you say?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night? Okay, what day is it today? Yeah. Wednesday?
Wednesday today, yeah.
Thursday. What about you, Anthony?
I'm good, whenever.
Okay, I'll try to see if I can tie down Chris for tomorrow evening and then we'll see if we can do like a QED flat Earth observation of the Isle of Man summary. And we will go also, just to keep the Globers happy, we'll go through your explanations too, and I'll try between Chris and myself to give them as concisely and as accurately as possible. In other words, we'll be presenting the model as such. The audience will have a choice at the end. The choice will be as follows. You either accept that the model is a flat plane with direct lines of sight to all of the things, lighthouse, top of the mountain, left, right, all directions, it's all measured with straight lines. In other words, we see things because they are there. The other explanation is that none of the stuff is actually where you think it is. It's all a mirage. Now, that mirage has been perfectly presented on the horizon in proportion so that you can actually take arc calculation measurements to any point, including the lighthouse, the top of the mountain, not left and right, but we'll maybe get into that as well, because that's had some interesting turns of events in terms of what Metabunk has done recently with their calculations. But again, that's a different issue. So we'll go through all of those things and present them as best as possible for both what the globe says is happening, and we've got to the end thanks to people like Rumpus. Big shout out to him, because now our ideas are no longer ideas, and our understandings are firmly in our grasp about what the globe explains for this observation. And at the end of all of that, once you've heard both models presented, you get to choose. Do you accept that it's not there because you can't physically see it? There is a curve in the way, a hill in the way, it's 650 feet below your feet, necessitating it being projected up 650 feet to meet the horizon perfectly within your eye line that you can see, and be presented as a mirage that's perfectly in proportion so you can take measurements off it, and therefore the Earth is round. That conclusion can also be drawn, or you can draw the conclusion that the Earth is in fact flat and we have direct lines of sight. Either or is perfectly acceptable. If you want to choose, you believe that you live on a sphere, you can find and accept that at the end of the presentation.
And the other thing to mention is, if this is indeed a mirage and the levels of non-standard refraction are so vast that they can account for anything, then why is it that you can repeat the observation with a P900 on a different day, with different weather conditions, with different opacity of the atmosphere, different moisture, different pressure density, different everything, and get basically the same thing? How is that possible if this is non-standard refraction? Shouldn't be this variation between the two.
Should really try and get the Hangout back up, because we're just primarily on Skype at the moment. So I'm going to go back to the photos and see if I can get the Hangout reloaded. Hopefully it's sorted itself out by now.
Well, I joined the Hangout, so it should be fine.
Oh, wow. Ranty, that's why I didn't know where you were. Oh, okay. So the link's still working. If you want to join the discussion, I should really just do a proper link. Let's do it properly, why not? So, hope you're enjoying the debate thus far. Unfortunately, it got sniped within the first 4 minutes, so it's a bit less public than perhaps others have been, but nonetheless enjoyable. But yeah, if you're enjoying the debate, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and a link in the info box below the video once it is rendered. As I say, if you'd like to join the panel, be sure to mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box, as Ranty has just done, to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, which in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there's about 40 minutes left on this live stream.
So essentially, we can conclude that both the Rumpus and GeoStreamer were wildly inaccurate, to the point that it would fall within the band of wildness that Google Earth claims is the wildness in the inaccuracy, plus or minus 30 meters. That's kind of what Rumpus's calculations were based on. Crazy numbers, miles out. Google Earth wasn't that inaccurate. Yeah, sure, 4 or 5, maybe 6 feet if you push it one way or the other, but it's not that far out. So I guess we can wrap that point up now. We don't really need to argue over the elevation height anymore, unless, I know, you could send Miles the Liar Davis back and see what nonsense he comes back with.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get the full elevation profiles of each hill displayed tomorrow evening, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat that would be interested to know the exact heights of certain locations.
The weather's due to be good up at St. Bees this weekend. We should plan an ad hoc impromptu visit up there, because I saw the humidity value, 62% humidity. That would give us a fantastic visibility. If the clouds and stuff were good, we would get a better picture of Mackle Lighthouse from that top elevation point. And we could also try and get it from the lower elevation point, the elevation points that are not that inaccurate on Google Earth. So that would be a good consideration.
Head over Friday night?
I think. Saturday, in time for Saturday morning.
Yeah, do you want to go Friday night?
I think so.
Yeah, and we can see if we can get an observation done of the lighthouse as well. Maybe if the lighthouse is actually switched on, we can get some footage of that.
Will you do me a favour while you're there, because it'll only take you 30 seconds. Take, Anthony, you've got a diopter app on your phone, right?
Sure.
Get close to that hill. Get it so you can see it, the top of it. And just take a picture, just so you can get an angle. Why not? The
Which hill? The lower one?
Middle one. The one by the caravans. The one that was claimed on your first video as being 35 feet according to Google. That observation point right next to the caravans, the one that we've played on this hangout. You played my 60-second video that I edited from all your footage. Well, that observation, all you need to do is get a diopter angle, because then they can argue it's 5 degrees higher, 5 degrees lower, blah, blah, blah. But if, as long as you've got a diopter from that position, it doesn't even matter that it's, you know, it's not got a tape to look up. It'd give you a rough idea, wouldn't it?
Sure.
Yeah,
sure. It's an easy one to do that.
Exactly.
But essentially,
don't waste the observation time. If it's a nice clear day, I just don't want you to mess around trying to, you know, run a tape so that you've got a really clear angle of what it is. I don't care that much. You know, you've got the top one, you've got the bottom one.
We've already done the tape measure, so we already know the length, 54 feet.
Sure, but you just need an angle. Even though it's not going to be accurate, it's not going to be along the line the tape that you took. It doesn't matter, just as long as you've got a rough angle from the shore to the top of that that high point.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, there's also other observations that we can do as well. I mean, seeing the boats on the horizon was an interesting one. I've just uploaded a video actually about that. You asked me to do it, so I've done that. So yeah, if we see anything else like that, it'll be worth presenting next week.
Can you play it? Can you bring it up and just present it?
It's quite a long video. It's an 8-minute video.
It's all right. It's presumably, if you share it now, we'll just have the pictures, right?
Yeah, it doesn't come through my.
That's fine. Yeah, that's perfect.
Through,
just bring it up and press play. If you can get it full screen, you know, hopefully you can talk us through it.
Well, it's all on the video.
I know, but just do it live. Why not? You've just made it. It's all fresh in your memory. Yeah, just play it without the sound, and then you can talk us through it.
Actually, Anthony can play it. Why? Well, he can play it with us. Oh, mind you, it might be copyrighted. Yeah, Anthony, do you want to put it on? Because I'm checking the Hangout, you see, for snipers.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
What are you talking about?
Anthony's.
I've uploaded a
Ranty's
video.
Released a video.
On your channel right now?
Yeah, it's only been up an hour or so, half an hour, something like that.
Okay, I can do that. Bear with me.
Just make sure you mute it.
It seems we're at the stage now we're turning some of the slower people into hologram believing fantasists, Ranty. Cool, huh?
Very. We'll get it eventually.
So why do I need to mute the sound?
You don't, but I was hoping that Ranty would, rather than having the sound come through from the video, if it's muted, keep it on pause a second. Just pause it. I'll get you presented. Instead of having Ranty like instead of just letting the video play, which would mean we could all go for a coffee, admittedly. But rather than that, Ranty's here, so he can just tell us. He can just say, well, you know, this is what's happening. It'll be a slightly different version of what he's got on the video, but why not? You know, we've got plenty of time. It'd just be, whoops, wrong screen. It'd just be nice to actually have Ranty do it live. That's all.
Yeah, sure.
Here we go. Application window. There we go. Let me know when you can see it, Ranty.
Just waiting for that Tesla car to come floating past that picture of the Earth that you've got shown on screen at the minute on your pictures. That Tesla car's due any second. You know, like the ISS. You can plot the Tesla car.
Can you see it, Ranty?
It's not displaying on the live debate.
Click on my face.
Yeah, but it's still not showing on to anybody else. Nobody's seeing it in the.
No, I'm just checking you can see it before I present it to the audience.
Oh right, okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Great. Press play, please.
Playing.
Press play. There we go. There's the. I'm gonna just pause it a sec. Let me get my Skype up. Yeah, so pretty much what I'm doing here is I think I've got around about 7 still images of a boat on the horizon at different elevations. So I think the highest elevation was about 12 meters or so, and the lowest was 0.2. What you're actually seeing is as the boat, as I lower my elevation, there's a mirroring effect that happens at the horizon. And that actually blocks out the bottom of the boat. Now, the tops of the boat don't actually change in elevation between where they're sitting in relation to the hard horizon, which proves that they're not actually going over a curve. What's actually happening is that dirty air, as we go lower, the dirty air is optically it's changing what you can see, and you can't actually penetrate it to see the bottom of the boat. It's causing things to be miraged.
Just as a quick translation, dirty air is the obstruction formerly known as curvature.
It's quite good actually, because I actually look back at a couple of other videos that I did that I took some time ago, and I saw the same phenomenon happening. But what was happening was there was the wind farms in front, and the boat came in front of the wind farms, and the boat was sitting on the horizon, which we're looking at now, hard horizon, and the wind farms were being miraged at a higher elevation than the actual hard horizon, which proves that the hard horizon is the hard horizon, and the miraging happens in the layer above that hard horizon.
What's the data that's flashing up? Just the EXIF data from your camera?
That's it, yeah. It's just the latitude and longitude, where I was, what the elevation was at the time, GPS coordinates, basically. So I think this is altitude 0.3 meters, and then I go down to a 0.2 meter as well.
I think what we're showing here is that what we used to call dirty air can now be described as the obstruction formerly known as curvature, because people like Miles the Liar Davis claim that this is supporting a spheroid Earth, and it clearly isn't. However, Slice Barcane has told us that this is actually a mirage, and it appears to the observer as obstruction because it's reflected, but it appears to the observer as obstruction. They were his actual words that he took issue with. So whatever's going on here, you got Sly to now thank, because the obstruction formerly known as curvature is actually an inverted mirage reflection that appears to the observer as obstruction. So that means that Miles the Liar Davis's wind turbines video that he managed to get an hour out of is completely fallacious. It's based on nonsense. It's not reflecting the curvature of the Earth at all. It's literally optical. It's caused by whatever, but it isn't curvature.
And what I'm asking people to do here is keep their eye on the hard horizon and the masts on the back and the front of the boat, and you'll see that the masts and the hard horizon virtually stay the same height, even though I lower my elevation. In fact, as I go lower down to the lowest point, they actually get a little bit longer, which is consistent with changing your elevation, and you're actually looking up towards the masts, so it would look like it's extended slightly.
Wow, your keyboard's even louder than mine.
Just going to ask a quick question, because GeoStream is in our chat right now, Anthony. Am I correct in saying that he actually conceded that the height at the mid-observation point was incorrect? Because I'm sure I remember you saying that. I just don't want to give him...
I haven't seen the answer. I haven't seen him answer. I did ask him that question. Do you now concede that your height that you claimed was wildly optimistic? And I didn't see an answer. You might have responded, but Geo claimed 27.5 meters, which is basically 27.5. It's greater than 90 feet. The question, Geo, is do you agree and accept that it's nowhere near 90? It's like between 35 and 40. Pretty much accurate to what Google Earth says. Do you concede that point now, Geo?
Obstruction's still there, isn't it?
So what I'm doing now is I'm basically showing that when you look through the bulge, you have to look through the bulge to see the boat. when you lower your observation, if you believe in the ball Earth. And obviously, when we look on a flat Earth, we basically just say that we're rising ourselves above the dirty air. And as you go lower in elevation, you have to encounter and deal with the dirty air that sits just above the water.
Obstruction, formerly known as curvature.
Yeah, formerly known as curvature.
It's not formally known. It's still curvature. Like, things still get obstructed. It doesn't matter how many wishy-washy little upside-down, blurry fucking refraction things you get. You can call Isle of Man a hologram if you want, but
Dawn. No need
it's still behind the curve.
No need to get angry
No,
about
it's
it.
behind a refraction zone. There's no cumulative
No,
drop.
refraction zone is something you guys have just made up over the last couple of months.
No, that's how it actually works.
Let me ask
There
Dawn a
is no
question then.
cumulative drop in the distance. You have to get over that.
So do curves
It just
tend
keeps
to make
on going
things...
in a straight line.
Do
Saying
curves
it's
tend...
formerly known as curvature. Well, like 6 billion people on the
curves,
planet.
Dawn,
disagree.
try to calm down. Try to keep calm. Right, do curves tend to make things reflect identically underneath themselves? Is that what curves do?
What I'm saying is I don't care about all of this little lines you draw. Hard horizon, soft horizon. Stuff still goes behind it.
Hey, Bruising Baller.
Children
can
can see that.
Bruising Baller?
Yeah, but there is no cumulative drop. It keeps on going in that straight line. There's no cumulative drop. A curve requires a cumulative drop. It's not there.
And can I just support Arwin when he says the vanishing point? This is an MIT paper that describes the effects of refraction, and you can download this for free. Atmospheric Refraction, the Study of Mirage, by somebody that I can't pronounce. But in this paper from MIT...
Can you move that MIT thing from my Steam Packet video? You're covering up my video.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, here we go. So
get this MIT paper off my video.
Traveling on the hard horizon, and behind it, you actually see the wind farms starting to mirage.
And you see it obstructed by the horizon blatantly.
Right. So what you're seeing here is the mirage points when the boat. I'll show you the lines in a moment.
But you can see it. There's a reflection there of the turbine blade.
Look at them. Half of them is obstructed.
Further away.
So I'll say it again, Dawn. Do curves usually cause things to reflect themselves underneath themselves? Is that what curves do?
You know, nature's got variable aspects to it. You all do.
Sorry, that doesn't answer my question. When you see a hill, do you normally find when you look at the hill...
Half the pylons are gone in the background. I wonder why.
See the reflection underneath them, Dawn? This is what's being pointed out that you seem to say I don't care about, but this is the point that's being made that you're now obfuscating, which is funny. That's why Ranty's laughing at you, and I am too. But this
so
obstruction...
your dirty air is removing the bottom half of those fucking windmills.
Right, it's the second time I've asked you not to swear, Dawn. I know this is annoying for you because you believe you live on a sphere.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about the swear word.
Yeah, so this is the obstruction formerly known as curvature, and we are demonstrating how it reflects itself beneath itself in that layer. That's what we're demonstrating. You don't have to like it.
No, I don't like that red writing. That's horrible.
Ranty, is it okay if I make this point now? Please say yes.
Gosh, can you? Well, the video's finished now, yeah.
Yeah, damn it. What did you do? Put it over his video, Anthony. How dare you?
Sorry. It was an accident. Right. So
awesome.
Arwin describes something called... Arwin describes a vanishing point, right? For every object point, there is an area which light cannot reach. This area is called the vanishing zone. We'll call it the vanishing point. Shaded in grey. For those of you too dense to realise, it's down here. When the observer is located inside the vanishing point, the object will become invisible to the observer as no light ray can reach the observer. We can find the vanishing zone using our program as well. So they've made a simulation in the program which we can ignore for the purposes of this. But they're acknowledging that things vanish, not drop behind the curve. Isn't it key that they're using the word vanish? There's no reference of curvature here. Why is that?
Because light bends upwards. That's the standard. As this graph proves. Thank you for getting this. It's awesome.
So Arwin's not crazy inaccurate here. Arwin's pretty much on point. Things do vanish because the light bends up. This is what the thing is showing. Why is it not saying
that is the standard? There is still the non-standard refraction in extremely hot conditions, like in the Nevada desert, and then you get actual mirage effects. But that's non-standard. The standard is what you get to see in in all locations usually, and that is when light bends up. It's only the non-standard in extreme conditions when it actually does bend down.
So would you say, MIT, just a quick question to Arwin, you know, when you've seen examples of those Fata Morgana, mirages, things that are represented above the actual deck that you're looking at, regardless of if it's land or sea. But in any of those instances, would you say that you could take sort of accurate measurements of the thing you're looking at?
How do you mean?
I mean, for example, when we try to take measurements of Morgold Lighthouse, the argument is that it's being presented because of non-standard refraction, but just happens to be perfectly represented in proportion to the degree that you can make measurements on it. And I'm asking if these mirage effects that are caused by non-standard refraction would normally be capable of measurement. Here we go. Scroll down a bit, Anthony.
Oh, well, yes. Technically, the non-standard refraction caused by extreme heat, like, for example, that reflection you see there in the desert, they do actually size up to be a pretty mirror accurate reflection of the above. So you could actually measure them, but it is a reflection. It's literally like a mirror. It's a mirror caused by the heat wave that is on the surface.
Scientist, I'd just like to remind you.
We've got an MIT paper backing up what Arwin says right now, Dawn. Do you realise that?
I'm just saying he makes up a lot of stuff.
He's literally,
he's
now confirming what MIT are demonstrating in this paper.
The hologram sinking into the sea. That's what he said.
Right, just say it one more time just for Dawn. Is it MIT, this paper, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is an MIT paper that's backing up what Arwin's saying. You realise that, Dawn?
There's the MIT reference for anybody.
Not really backing up what he was saying. He was just riffing on made-up stuff.
What I'll do is I'll try and drop this in the public chat so that everybody can read it. It might not work. No, it won't work. I'll drop it to Nathan in the side chat on Skype. If Nathan can present it in the public chat for everybody to see, then they can all get a copy of the information. Fundamentally, it is an MIT paper talking about refraction, and it talks about, look at all these maths. This is what you're going to have to start talking about.
Where are you going to put that file, Riley?
Pardon?
Where are you going to put the file?
I'll stick it in the link below the video once it's been rendered.
Okay, cool.
Well, can you see that it talks about superior? So, Scott Veach in chat, this is what a Fata Morgana is. It's a superior mirage with an inversion above the thing. That's not what we're seeing in the floaty land. We're seeing a mirage that's an inferior mirage, and there is a bit of mirroring, but it's below the image. That's what we're seeming to be seeing, and this is the obstruction formerly known as curvature. Look at the maths that's involved in it. It's nonsense. Nobody can work this out. Not even the rumpus can fudge his way through this to explain.
Yeah, he did it live. Took him about 20 minutes.
It's like the gravity math.
You reckon that rumpus has done this
Sorry,
live?
I can't let you get away with that. The rumpus did do. That's why I have to concede. So the rumpus, during the debate with Steve, did an arc calculation to the top of Snaefell Mountain. So he is, in effect, immediately conceding that the entire island is a mirage, but he has applied his arc calculation to that and come within a hair of getting it right. So based on that, I can say that you can account for this observation mathematically on a sphere using non-standard refraction and arc calculations, i.e. this maths. So he can apply it, has applied it, does apply it, and as a net result, I can't say the globe's a total fail, they can't account for this. They can.
Right,
they can apply an arc calculation to it.
There is absolutely no way that Rumpus has done this maths to demonstrate any point on Steve's thing at all. It's nonsense. Nobody would be able... This is like... what's his face's maths? What's his bloody name? The scientist that... Albert Einstein. This is Einsteinian maths that nobody would ever be able to do. There is no way Rumpus did this. He did a simple arc calculation based on trig. However, that's not what we're talking about here. This is the non-standard refraction and the maths that's involved in it to calculate these things, and it's ridiculous.
This paper is going to change the world, isn't it?
Sorry, Dawn.
No, it's just giving credence to Arwin when he's talking about things that go missing. Things do become invisible, not drop behind the curvature of the Earth. Because if they
Because
were
like
going
before,
to,
it goes missing behind the refraction
Dawn's
zone.
very triggered. Every time you say that it's not behind the curve of the Earth, he gets very annoyed.
Here we go.
I know you all know.
No.
Yeah, I know you all know there's a curve to the Earth. That's why.
No, there isn't. We've demonstrated
No.
that the lighthouse
God,
is
you
visible.
can't let it go, can you?
I know. It's all right. I'll do it with Dawn. Let's just have it with Dawn. Dawn, the lighthouse that we see in the images of the Isle of Man, can you actually see it? Do you have a direct line of sight with it? Is it, in quotes, there?
It's raised up, isn't it?
Sorry,
refraction.
raised up from where? From where you can't see it, correct?
Behind the curve.
Right, so we can't physically see the lighthouse. It physically isn't there. It's a holographic representation of something 650 feet behind your curve, right? So, let me just say it to you, Dawn. We don't see that curve. It's not blocking our view of anything. We see the lighthouse, my friend. Do you understand that?
And no beach.
Sorry, Dawn, you're going to go on to this no beach thing before we establish that the lighthouse is there. We do see it. Correct?
Yeah, the rising up doesn't make a flat Earth.
Rising up from what, Dawn?
All it tells
you
is
need to end
nature
your
is
sentence,
variable
Dawn. You
and
need to end your sentence. Rising up from beyond your view. That's what it's doing. Because you can't see it on a sphere.
Nature is variable.
Yeah, nature's magical when you can see things that shouldn't be there. We know. You're just telling us that we all know there's a curve there. I've just demonstrated to you unequivocally there is no curve demonstrated in the picture of Morgold Lighthouse. Do you accept that or not?
It's demonstrated, yeah, because there's a beach that's behind it.
No. The curve that is supposed to be there should block the view of the lighthouse and doesn't. Let's not worry about what we don't see in the shore. Let's worry about what we do see from the lighthouse that shouldn't be there. So you accept that it's coming back from behind a curve that we don't see. Correct, Dawn?
There's curvature demonstrated in the horrible...
Not in this image,
lighthouse
my friend. You don't just repeat something when I've just demonstrated to you that we don't see any curve. There is no curve in the image. Nothing's blocking our view of the lighthouse, Dawn. Correct?
There's obstruction of the beach.
Of the lighthouse, Dawn! Are you dense or deaf? The lighthouse!
There's obstruction from the bottom of Isle of Man, and you've measured and shown that Isle of Man is rised up. That's both
rised up? Sorry, you keep saying this rised up. Rised up from where, Dawn?
Behind the curve.
Right, so we can't see it, right?
It's a terrible composite as well, really, really bad.
Yeah, you're dumb. You're dumb, Dawn. You're dumb. Terrible. That's your problem. That's why I'm getting frustrated and shouting at you. You are quite literally stupid.
Can I ask Dawn a couple of questions?
You go ahead.
Go on.
Dawn, in relation to this MIT paper that describes that the light travels down first and then bends up, how would if we were talking about a boat on the horizon, the further away the boat goes, the light appears to bend down, that would chop off the bottom of the boat, would it not? Or would it be when it bends up? You tell me what happens with regards to the boat.
Depends on temperature and conditions. I'm not bothered about refraction details. I know it still gets obstructed the further away it goes.
Let me read this to you. For every object, so for example, a boat.
One MIT paper won't change that.
I've got to pick up Dawn again. I know it's being obstructed. Do you understand that we see the lighthouse, Dawn, and that it is not obstructed?
Yeah, but I know the bottom of Isle of Man is obstructed, isn't it?
So you're back onto the bottom. I'll say it again because you're either hard of hearing or completely stupid. The lighthouse, Dawn. The lighthouse. Can you see it? It is there. It is not being obstructed by a curve. It is not being blocked by a bulge. You get that?
I don't think he does.
No, because he's dense.
Doesn't make Earth flat.
Dense. It's all right. I don't mind taking half an hour with him like I did with Kat and with Imric. I don't mind taking these slow idiots who take a long time to get to the level of comprehension that people like Paul Voigt have of their own bullshit. Paul Voigt understands it. That's why he's talking about non-standard refraction, to get around the fact that refraction doesn't bring it back and it's not actually there in the first place. Total silence from Dawn the dickhead.
It is miraculously consistent, I have to say, how he persistently and perfectly persistently, like every time you ask him a question, immediately moves on to another subject, another area to focus on. He just constantly evades everything, every single thing, constantly. I wonder if he even realizes.
At least I don't make stuff up.
What, like the curvature that you say is always there, that we've literally just pointed out to you on 3 separate occasions is not there? The obstruction that you think should be obstructing the lighthouse, that isn't obstructing a damn thing, Dawn? Where do you think this is demonstrated? In the pictures we're showing you where it isn't demonstrated? You have what is called cognitive dissonance. How you doing, Skinwalker? Good to have you here.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you say a bit more than just a hello? Hello? Okay, goodbye. So, Dawn, there's no curve in this picture, right? You get that? Is that sunk in yet? It's not being obscured, it's not being blocked. That's why you have slightly looming non-standard refraction coming to the rescue.
Shall I bring up some photos with curvature?
No, Dawn, we're looking at these pictures.
They're horrible pictures, look at it.
Let's sod off.
Blur.
Get off my show. Don't like these pictures because they don't demonstrate curvature and you want to claim they're crappy pictures. Piss off.
I'm just bringing it back down to earth.
Right, down to earth where there's no curvature, as shown in these pictures, Dawn. You get that? No curve demonstrated. You get that? Has that sunk in yet?
No.
No, that's because you're thick, and I'll keep pointing it out to you. There is no curve blocking our view.
Wow.
Except for the bottom part.
What's it blocking? How do you know? Have you measured this? Have you measured how high that lighthouse is off the deck?
Right, the bottom part, if the bottom part was curve, wouldn't it be like that, Dawn? Because that's where the curve is supposed to be on your model. So therefore, that can't be curved.
The very bottom of Isle of Man is missing.
Yeah, you keep talking about stuff that we can't physically reference, like the lighthouse that we can see. This nice gleaming landmark that we can stick a tab against it and go, according to your bullshit maths, it should be sat on the tippy top of the horizon, just the very top of it. Not the land beneath it that you're now talking about. That's not there. It should be gone. You've said it's looming up from behind the curve. Below you, 650 feet, but that doesn't seem to matter to the bendy light in your bullshit. Yeah? You've conceded it ain't there, but you think that you can see a curve. You have what's called cognitive dissonance. The two opinions conflict.
Do you want me to bring up some images with curvature?
No, we're getting you to get to this photo that doesn't demonstrate any curvature at 31 miles and has been repeated. You understand that?
This doesn't prove flat Earth either way.
Yeah, it does. That's what we're trying to drill into you slowly, while you concede that it's a bloody hologram that's 650 feet below you and is being loomed up by bendy light that happens to work exactly the same on different days, in different conditions, on different cameras, with different photographers. That's what you're trying to say. Let's go to a different single image. See the two images of the lighthouse now, Dawn? Where's the curve in that image that you say is always there? Are you deaf? Where's the curve?
What do you want me to say?
I want you to tell me where the curve is. Are you deaf? Did you not hear the question? Where's the curve, Dawn? Where's the curve?
I don't even know what that photo's of.
It's of a lighthouse taken from St. Bees, you retard.
Doesn't prove flat Earth.
It does. There's no curvature there. How many times do I have to ask you to tell me where the curve is? Are you going to tell me again that it's blocking where the sea rises and falls? Or are you going to explain why the lighthouse that shouldn't be there is there? Are you going to have the conversation like Tim Osman where you try and get me to define what there means? It's there. We see it.
Lighthouse image, Nathan, in your side chat in the Skype on your personal Nathan one.
Shall we move on to the simulation sky that you need to make flat Earth work?
No, we still haven't got an answer to where the curve is, Dawn. You don't seem to want to answer the question. Where's the curve?
I explained that many times.
We've explained
just
what
need
is
to
happening
measure
in
the
the
Earth
bottom of the image
to
in
make
terms of
flatter.
what's being
Shall I
cut
bring
off,
up some
Dawn.
images with curvature on them?
We've got 2 images of a lighthouse at 31 miles on different days from different cameras with different photographers under different conditions. Neither demonstrate curvature. I would like you to explain where that curvature is. Why isn't it obscuring the lighthouse? Are you dumb?
Yeah.
He's being fed from Discord, isn't he?
I don't know what he's doing. He's clearly retarded.
He's got Rumpus or Paul Voigt or somebody of that nature going.
All of those
Waffle, waffle, waffle,
silly
waffle,
guys.
waffle, waffle.
Hello, Alan. How you doing?
Not too bad.
Hey, Alan
You
B.
sound angry, Nathan.
Not at all.
Sorry
Just
for not
like to get an
shouting out
answer to
again.
the question I ask.
Hey, Arwin.
Hey, how are you doing, old man?
Not too bad. Carry on.
Your voice seems higher pitched than usual.
I've got tight trousers on.
Is that so? Love it.
Thank you.
Are we all relaxing?
Yeah,
I'm
we
always
need a bit of a
relaxed.
break after that. It's really like trying to get facts through into a giant ball of concrete. And
Maybe
it just,
Alan can.
It just won't let it through. It just won't let any fact through. It just refuses it. It's just, no, I'm a ball. 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 And that's all that Don guy does. It just...
I'm going to paraphrase what this says here for the benefit of Alan, and I'm hoping that Alan B can give
Hey,
us
Johnson,
an answer.
Wowzer.
That's Dawn again. I just wanted to be here for Alan
Yeah, I
B.
kicked you out because you didn't answer my question about 5 times. And you're an idiot. So, go and figure out what the problem is with your own model, then come back and then debate with us. Till then, I'm not interested in debating with you anymore. You're a retard.
Okay.
Alan B. Alan B. For Mackle Lighthouse, there is an area that the light cannot reach. This area is called the vanishing zone, shaded in grey in figure 14.6. If the lighthouse is in the vanishing zone, why does it not say that it drops behind the curvature of the Earth? Why is it called the vanishing zone? Can you tell me?
I can't see the document that you're referring to, Anthony. Just hold on. And what's the question again?
For Mackle Lighthouse, there is an area which the light cannot reach. This area is called the vanishing zone, shaded in grey in the figure below, which is highlighted here. Can you tell me why it doesn't say that it drops behind the curvature of the Earth and it's referred to as a vanishing zone? I'm confused.
What was your height when you took that picture?
That's a different question that doesn't answer the question you've been asked. Does it have any relation to this particular point in terms of why there is no curvature mentioned in this MIT paper describing a vanishing zone?
Well, I haven't seen the MIT paper, but
It's
I'm
in front of
guessing
you
that
right now.
Anthony,
Click on my page.
Anthony,
Presented.
Well-
Alan B, just look at the Hangout
It's on page
screen.
now,
It's
on
there.
screen. The audience can see it. Everyone else can see it, Alan.
Don't forget to put on your glasses.
my glasses are on.
All right.
I'd have to
So
read
the-
it to give you an answer, Anthony.
So-
Correct.
Okay,
just,
so this
just look
this,
at it.
This paper talks about the effects of mirage and the atmosphere on the particular model in this paper, right? Forget about the model. It's talking about the descriptions of the things that we see in the horizon and on the horizon and with regards to mirage. And there's a part 9.3 that says, quote, and I'm paraphrasing, for Mackle Lighthouse, there is an area that the light cannot reach. This area is called the vanishing zone. Why is it not called it will drop behind the curvature of the Earth? Why is it called the vanishing zone?
I'm just watching Nathan play with his little girl.
So
funny.
you're
Best thing
easily
on.
distracted and can't
I
answer
don't
the
know,
question.
Anthony,
without-
but you have a terrible
It's-
habit of cherry picking.
Come on, Alan B is
So,
not really a
I'm not-
specialist in this kind of stuff. He's just a.
I'm
Hey,
just
don't
confused
get
to
why.
worried,
hang
Owen.
around this discussion stuff at his old age, apparently.
All right, let me carry on then. When the lighthouse is located inside this vanishing zone, the object will be invisible to the observer, as no light ray can reach the observer. Why does it not say when the lighthouse drops behind the curvature of the Earth, it will disappear?
Maybe if we play the countdown music, would that bring an air of familiarity to it to you, Alan?
Do it something.
2 from the bottom and 3 from the top, please, Nathan.
So we're going to get an answer. Why doesn't the MIT paper mention curvature?
I
Hi,
just
Jeffrey.
said I'd like to read the paper first before I
How you doing,
answer.
Jeffrey? We've got a new guest. How you doing, Jeffrey?
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Coming through loud and clear. Good to have you, my friend. Thank you to everyone who shared. Jeffrey's the result. Thank you for being here.
What do those two axes? Oh, could you go back to the graph? I actually wanted to talk about that graph. What are the axes of that graph? Like the X and Y, what do they represent?
Well, the X is a flat plane that we live on, because if it was a curved Earth, they wouldn't be able to show it in a graph that easily. I wouldn't imagine the flat plane here. The X must be. I don't know what the axis label is. It doesn't give me a value for what the label is. It just says X, and then the Y value is going from 0.5 to 5. So I'm not sure what the reference in here. All I can say is that it's
that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
All right.
Fair enough. Good point.
I just find
By
it
the way, I'm kind of interested at that, looking at that graph, that it's somehow slightly different as to what I expected. That that apparently there's like this observation point, or it waves apart, so it seems, and then it comes back together according to that graph with that red thing. That was pretty interesting. I wonder what the details of that are.
Can I just let the record show as well that in this particular paper, when you search the word curvature, you find 0 results.
Mm-hmm.
So they're talking about all these optical atmospheric effects, and not once did they mention about the curvature of the Earth. I find that quite interesting, because light's supposed to bend around the curvature of the Earth, and they not mention that bit once. Yet that's what Rumpus and GeoStreamer and all these nonce boys all tell us is causing light to do. Yet nobody has, in this MIT paper, has mentioned the curvature of the Earth. I think that's a real bad failing on an MIT paper, wouldn't you agree, Nath?
No, they just stick to real science. It's very professional of them.
Oh, so are you saying that the curvature of the Earth is a pseudoscience, Arwin?
Me? No.
So, I thought it was a real science, the curvature of the Earth. Damn.
This is optics. Optics is about engineering. It's about real things. It's not about cosmogonical theoretical science.
Cosmogonical?
Yes. Cosmogonical means about the shape of the Earth. It's a real word. It's a real word.
This is another one of those fake
I find it so
forced
amusing.
laughs.
But anyway, this red band, is that the representation of the more blurry part or something? Is that vanishing zone right there is what you really don't get to see at all, and the red zones are the parts that you do get to see that are like blurred and mirrored, like in Ranty's photos.
Let me just suggest an interpretation for what this graph shows. Let's suggest
Hey,
that
Alex,
I'm
how you
at
doing? Good to
position
have you.
2.
Can you hear us?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we've got about 5 minutes left, Alex. So I don't know if Anthony, if you can just concede immediately and let Alex speak, that'd be brilliant.
Sure.
All right. First of all, thanks. This is not a scientific paper. You can see that by the way it's written. And it clearly says it in the top. It is a lab report written by students who apparently, when you Google the school that is mentioned, SKA Lam Wu Memorial Secondary School, the students are about age 16 to 18. So this is not a scientific paper.
It's credible enough for MIT
Really?
to cite it as credible, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. Because the lab report will definitely contain mistakes. I'm not saying that there's any mistakes in there. I'm not able to decipher the maths on the fly. But if you're saying it's a scientific paper and it's written by MIT, you're wrong.
It's endorsed by MIT. It's supported by MIT. It's promoted by MIT.
It's on their server.
It is MIT.
It's on their server.
It
That's
is
all that's
recorded
happening here.
in their library, probably.
I don't think the word MIT is even mentioned in there.
It's from the MIT library. You understand that if it's endorsed by MIT, like M. Scott Veach writing for Forbes, if Forbes are citing it as what was the thing that he wrote? Whatever it was, I can't remember what it was. But if Forbes present it, it's endorsed by Forbes in the same way that this is presented by MIT.
It's a fair enough point, though. Wouldn't you agree,
the article
Anthony?
never claims to have any links with MIT itself.
If it's not a published paper by MIT, I think that's GeoStreamer's point. And I think it's a fair point, isn't it?
No, it's published by MIT. It's in their library.
See, this is not a. You guys keep referring to it. It is not a paper. It is a lab report or a work report of a group project. That's all. You can see that clearly by the way it's written and by the written quite sloppily. For example, as you guys clearly identified, some of the diagrams don't have any labels. If it was a scientific paper, it would be rejected by that fact alone immediately.
So why don't you write a complaint to MIT saying that they should drop this report because it's not credible enough?
Because it isn't published anywhere.
If
it were published in a scientific journal, then yeah, I would be upset about it because the quality isn't good.
I think that's a fair enough point, Gio. I've got to say that's a fair enough point. If it's not a quote paper published by MIT, then that makes it less credible. I agree.
Yeah, this looks like it's written in the first 2 or 3 semesters by the style of it. When you Google the school, it's a secondary school that isn't even university level. So again, claiming it to be a paper is blatantly wrong and a little bit dishonest because you give it more credence than it actually deserves.
No. It's endorsed by MIT. That is not being dishonest in any way, shape, or form. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be on here. So why is it on an MIT page?
Sorry, it's dishonest by you guys to claim it's a paper.
No, it isn't dishonest. Where's the intention to deceive?
Because you're giving it more credence than it has.
No, I think it's fair enough. I would like to say straight away, I stand corrected. Calling it a paper is inaccurate and fallacious. And, calling it a paper, I don't want to call it a paper anymore if that's not the correct term. But that's my misunderstanding of how published scientific documents get labelled, not in any way an attempt to deceive. It's just to point that out.
Right. Well, I don't mind calling it a report rather than a paper.
Because you immediately mentioned it would be a paper without actually checking it first.
It's published by MIT in their library. Why is that not considered acceptable, and why is it evidence of dishonesty?
Because this one didn't go through peer review.
How do you know that?
No, that's perfectly acceptable answer.
If it were published in a scientific journal, it would have passed through peer review. This is not what is happening here.
So I suggest you write to MIT and tell them to withdraw this out of their library of documents because it's not been peer reviewed.
And with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live panel for making this debate possible. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.